In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Sorry, my hair is doing all sorts of things today. Welcome again to another Friday. June is almost over, which means half of 2022 has already flown by. I hope you've had a good year so far. Hopefully, next week when I cover the next chapter, I will be sitting in a different room. That's all I can say about it right now. But diving right into it, last week we had a long video about Kaf, the chapter, Surah Kaf. And there was a lot to unpack, and I know I didn't unpack everything. Maybe I'll come back to it after I've discussed this one, because there was a very interesting verse in the footnotes which it referred us to, and I wonder if I can find it. It was chapter 6, verse 61, if I'm not mistaken. And it was, he is the irresistible and he sends guardians, writing all, right. So I'm just going to read this before I start the next one, because as you remember, last week it was about an angel on the right and an angel on the left, and the good deeds and the bad deeds, and there was a lot of detailed discussion about that. So in the footnote it referred us to chapter 6, which is Surah Al-An'am, and I don't know the English word for it, and I know it will come much later, verse number 61. And I'll first read the verse, then I will read its footnote, and the verse goes like this. He is the irresistible, bracket, supreme over his slaves, and he sends guardians, bracket, and angels guarding and writing all of one's good and bad deeds over you, until when death approaches one of you, our messengers, bracket, angel of death and his assistants, take his soul, and they never neglect their duty. So this is the verse, and the footnote goes like this. Whoever intended to do a good deed or a bad deed. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, the Prophet narrating about his Lord said, God ordered the appointed angels over you, that the good and the bad deeds be written, and he then showed the way how to write. If somebody intends to do a good deed and does not do it, then God will write for him a full good deed in his account with him. And if he intends to do a good deed and actually did it, then God will write for him in his account with him its reward equal from 10 to 700 times to many more times. And if somebody intended to do a bad deed and does not do it, then God will write a full good deed in his account with him. And if he intended to do it, i.e. the bad deed, and actually did it, then God will write one bad deed in his account. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari 8/6491. I'll come back to the mathematics of this because this is interesting. But the second part of the footnote says, narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, angels come to you in succession by night and day, and all of them get together at the time of Fajr and Asr, the morning and the late afternoon prayer. Then those who have stayed with you overnight ascend unto God, who asks them, and he knows the answer better than they, how have you left my slaves? They reply, we left them while they were praying, and we came to them while they were praying. And the Prophet added, if any one of you says Ameen, Amen, during the prayer at the end of the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, which is what we covered 30 weeks ago, if you remember, and the angels in heaven say the same, and the two sayings coincide, all his past sins will be forgiven. Also from Sahih al-Bukhari 4/3223. So the second one, to be very honest, I didn't know. That's why if you've ever observed a prayer, and I'm talking about the prayers when the sun isn't out, because otherwise there's no recitation except on Fridays. So after the first chapter is recited, which is Surah Al-Fatiha, which in terms of revelation order is chapter 5, which I covered 30 weeks ago, but in terms of the Quran, is the first in terms of arrangement. Every time the Imam recites it, the whole congregation goes, Ameen. It does that. And then the Imam recites the next chapter after it. I now realize why it is done. And maybe I had heard it when I was younger, and I do it because it's just part of the process. But I think they do it at every one of them so that at any given time, if the sayings coincide with the angels doing it up above, then maybe that's what they're looking for. So that's the good thing. But the other thing that it says here, so bad intentions are not punished, but good intentions are rewarded. That's not fair. Let's be very honest. In terms of justice and fairness, that's not fair. That is merciful. And I had this discussion with one of my best friends who opened my eyes to how God is just and merciful, but his mercy is greater than his justice. And he explained it to me in a manner where I immediately said, wow, you're right. Absolutely right. And this is a supreme example of that. How does it make sense? If you are awarding good deeds and punishing bad deeds, it's fair. If you're awarding good intentions and punishing bad intentions, that is fair. But if you are rewarding good intentions and and not punishing bad intentions, that's not fair. But moreover, if you're rewarding good intentions and rewarding bad intentions not enacted upon, that's not fair. That's merciful. That's empathetic. That's compassionate. That's loving. That's sympathetic. That's all those things we associate with God, the Father, or God, the lover, or God, the Creator. Is not just a hard taskmaster. Because this isn't fair. I don't know if anyone can convince me if this is fair. If you're not punishing the bad intentions, then you shouldn't reward the good ones, right? But here's the detail. The action is what matters. So if you think about doing something negative, let's say you think about stealing somebody's car, and you go do it, you get punished with one bad deed. But you think about stealing somebody's car, and up until the point of stealing, something stops you, whether it's your conscience, whether it's your upbringing, whether it's fear, whether it's God, something stops you. Or whether it's your own self, which says, no, I will not do this, I'll buy my own car. That switch in thinking is being rewarded because it leads to better behavior. So let's say somebody's used to stealing cars or used to stealing fruits or whatever, stealing books. One day something holds them back and they say, maybe I'm not going to steal today. And once that pattern is broken, then it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time from the thief stepping away from all stolen aspects. That's why it's rewarded. But my argument as a rationalist is that it's not fair. It's merciful. And God is showing again and again that God is merciful. It doesn't make sense. And also this thing about intends to do a good deed and actually did it, then God will write for him 10 to 700 times to many more times. So I do one good deed, but God has written 10 or 700 or many more. But I just did one good deed. So, A, it's merciful, but B, it's incentivized. Why wouldn't I do it? So, if a good deed is give some food to a homeless person, there's a homeless person sitting on the road, on the pavement, sorry. You're walking by them, you have, uh, what shall I say, a carton of fries or whatever it's called, and it's delicious. It is delicious. But while walking, you look to the homeless person and say, would you like some fries? And if he says, no, I'm good, thank you so much, then at least you did your part because the intention was there and even the follow through of action was there. And if he says, yes, I'd love some fries, give them the whole pack. Give it. Give it. Give them the whole pack. You'll get more. Even if it were your last pack and you didn't have money, somehow, somewhere, you will get more. I've lived through this. I wish I could measure it scientifically. I've lived through it and I've heard it. That's one of the reasons why I have faith, and that's one of the reasons why I believe in God, because there are things we can't measure yet. Like we don't have the instruments to measure them yet, but we know that they're true. So I've seen that the giver of genuine charity, not charity for show, genuine charity, ends up benefiting tenfold every single time, including myself. And one may argue that there are some other forces, there may be some rationalizations, fair enough. We can discuss them. But for now, so the good deed is rewarded tenfold or 700-fold or even more. But the bad intention is not even punished. The bad intention, not acted upon, is rewarded. How can you say that this is a barbaric religion then? So far, it aligns well with the humanity of Buddha, the generosity and compassion of Christ, uh, the idealism of Ram. It aligns with all of them and maybe even more. There are barbarians who follow Islam. There are barbarians who follow every religion, and taken out of the context of ideas written 1500 years ago, one can definitely make arguments that yes, parts of the Quran are barbaric, and when I get to them, I'll try my best to look at it from all perspectives. But one can't paint the whole book in one color. That's what I say to my friends who are atheists, and I say, okay, fair enough. We don't have proof that there is a God. We can't measure with our instruments. But there's much more to say in these books too. So you can't ignore everything else based on one point that you don't agree with. You must listen to the whole argument and say, okay, I agree with 80% or 90%, but this central idea is what is problematic to me. So one of those central ideas, which I've been discussing since the beginning, about being merciful, generous, kind, compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic to the poor, the weak, the orphan. It's just exhibited with God's perspective on how He's going to judge our prayer, our deeds. Just think about it. It doesn't make sense. You're thinking about doing something negative, but you don't do it, and you receive a reward rather than a punishment. That's not fair, is it? That's a merciful God. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, the city. I swear by this city, which is Mecca, and you are free from sin and to punish the enemies of Islam on the day of the conquest in this city, Mecca. And it says in the footnote, narrated by Ibn Abbas, on the day of the conquest of Mecca, God's messenger said, God has made this town a sanctuary. Its thorny bushes should not be cut. Its game should not be chased, and its fallen things should not be picked up except by one who would announce it publicly. This is also from Sahih Bukhari 2/1587. I'm sure that's what happened when they did conquer Mecca. And by the begetter, which is Adam, and that which he begot, which is his progeny, all of us, verily we have created man in toil. Yes, God, you have. But the difference I've noticed, I wouldn't say it's only tied to faith or religion. I wouldn't say it's only tied to religion, but it's tied to faith. Because even though man has been created in toil, those who have faith in something see the toil positively, and those who don't believe in anything do not see it as positively or even positively at all. They try to mitigate the toil rather than understanding that the toil is part of the process. Verily we have created man in toil. Does he think that none can overcome him? He says boastfully, I have wasted wealth in abundance. Does he think that none sees him? Have we not made for him 2 eyes and a tongue and 2 lips? Okay, 2 separate lips. Okay. See, now it's getting back to body parts. And shown him the 2 ways, good and evil, but he has not attempted to pass on the path that is steep, which means the path which leads to goodness and success, steep. And what will make you know the path that is steep? And it says in Arabic, oh, the writing's so small, فَقُّ رَقَبَةٍ, and it says it is freeing a neck. And here, neck means a slave. The noose is around the neck of the slave. And in the footnote it says, narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, whoever frees a Muslim slave, God will save all parts of his body from the hellfire, as he has freed the body parts of the slave. Also from Sahih al-Bukhari 3/2517. Amazing. Amazing. I do take point that it says whoever frees a Muslim slave. That can be discussed. Because as we've discussed about the context and the perspective of this book, this is a Muslim book. It's talking about Islam. It's promoting that idea. But I like that freeing a slave can lead to protection from the hellfire. What will make you know the path that is steep? It is freeing a neck slave or giving food in a day of hunger, famine, to an orphan near of kin, or to a miskin, which means poor person, cleaving to dust out of misery. Then he became one of those who believed and recommended one another to perseverance and patience, and also recommended one another to pity and compassion. They are those on the right hand, i.e., the dwellers of paradise. But those who disbelieve in our verses, bracket, proofs, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, they are those on the left hand, the dwellers of hell. The fire will be shut over them, which means they will be enveloped in the fire without any opening or window or outlet. And it says in the footnote, therein they will be breathing out with a deep sighs and roaring, and therein they will hear not. Ibn Masud recited this verse and then said, when those who are destined to remain in the hellfire forever will be thrown in the hellfire, each of them will be put in a separate box of fire, so that he will not see anyone punished in the hellfire except he himself. Then he recited this verse. This is from Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Tabari al-Qurtubi. Wow. That's heavy. The ending is heavy. But see, again, as discussed last week, the theme of mercy, goodness, compassion comes in, and then this hellfire. And these are the 2 themes. And then God showed, with the footnote I read about good deeds and bad deeds, about mercy. And maybe God will show and has shown through his stories about justice, punishing bad deeds. And this is how the punishment is. And then also reminding us that a bad intention is not punished. It's rewarded if it's not acted upon. So there's 2 themes, 2 dominant themes being told through a lot of stories and parables and metaphors and invocations to the past. But that's the Quran. I wonder, hopefully by 2024, when I'm covering the Bible, hopefully I'm alive and well and have access to a good camera and mic. I hope this becomes bigger and I'm able to do it more professionally. I'd love to see what layering the Bible has, because in the first 35 chapters, as of today, the two themes are the same: mercy, compassion, sympathy, empathy, love, and the day of judgment. Be mindful of the day of judgment. Just in time, Robert Berry. Thank you so much for dropping by. Robert Berry, everyone, from the United States. Please follow him on LinkedIn and all his social medias. He's a master speaker. He's a fantastic thinker, and he's a great friend to have. So please follow him. Thank you, Robert, for saying hi. Hey, why can't I remove your thing? There we go. Robert's probably laughing like, ha, look what I did. Yeah, so I suppose that's it for today. These two themes are the themes that repeat again and again. Ananda Raj BR, thank you for saying hi. Ananda, lovely to see you. I was just about to go, so I'm glad we caught each other. Hope everything's fine. I'm guessing you're in India. I hope things are fine in India and it's not too warm. In any case, thank you everyone for joining me this Friday. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely Friday night.